Wake up! Wake up, wake up, wake up! Up you wake, up you wake, up you wake, up you wake! This is Mr. Senior Love Daddy, your voice of choice. The world's only 12-hour strong man on the air. And that's the truth.
Welcome to Bennington.
I don't know where I'm going from here, but I promise I won't bore you.
I want you to take your hand out of the bowl of Fritos, throw away your National Enquirer, and pick up the phone. Go ahead, pick it up, and call Bennington. Talk radio. It's the last neighborhood in town. People just don't talk to each other anymore.
You would be very lucky if in your whole life you saw the work of one genius.
The form of the tragic autobiography is dead. Goodbye, written word. So I have chosen this form, radio, to author my life.
Hashtag Bennington.
This is Mr. Senior Love Daddy doing the nasty to your ears to the nasty. Eyes only play the platters that matter, the matters they platter. And that's the truth.
Well, a lot of people have asked me why did I write that book or any book. All the stories I wrote were true because I believed in what I saw. I was traveling west one time at the junction of the state line of Colorado, its arid western one, and the state line of poor Utah. I saw in the clouds, huge and massed above the fiery golden desert of evenfall, the great image of God with forefinger pointed straight at me through halos and rolls and gold folds that were like the existence of a gleaming spear in his right hand, which saith, "Come on, boy, go thou across the ground. Go moan for man. Go moan. Go groan. Go groan alone. Go roll your bones alone. Go thou and be little beneath my sight. Go thou and be minute as seed in the pod. Go thou, die hence. And of this world report you well and truly." Anyway, I wrote the book because we're all gonna die. In the loneliness of my life, my father dead, my brother dead, my mother far away, my sister and my wife far away. Nothing here but my own tragic hands that once were guarded by a world, a sweet attention, that now are left to guide and disappear their own way into the common dark of all our death. Sleeping in me raw bed alone and stupid, with just this one pride and consolation. My heart broke in the general despair and opened up inwards to the Lord. I made a supplication in this dream. So in the last page of On the Road, I describe how the hero, Dean Moriarty's come to see me all the way from the West Coast just for a day or two. We've just been back and forth across the country several times in cars, and now our adventures are over. We're still great friends, but we have to go into later phases of our lives. So there he goes, Dean Moriarty, ragged in the moth-eaten overcoat he brought specially for the freezing temperatures of the East. Walking off alone, and last I saw him, he rounded the corner of 7th Avenue, eyes on the street ahead, and bent to it again. Gone. So, in America, when the sun goes down, and I sit on the old broken-down river pier watching the long, long skies over New Jersey, and sense all that raw land that rolls in one unbelievable huge bulge over to the West Coast, and all that road going, and all the people dreaming in the immensity of it. In Iowa, I know by now that children must be crying in the land where they let the children cry. And tonight the stars will be out, and don't you know that God is Pooh Bear? The evening star must be drooping and shedding her sparkler dims on the prairie, which is just before the coming of complete night that blesses the earth, darkens all the rivers, cups the peaks, and folds the final shore in. Nobody knows what's going to happen to anybody besides the forlorn rags of growing old. Think of Dean Moriarty, I even think of old Dean Moriarty, the father we never found. Think of Dean Moriarty, I think of Dean Moriarty.
Happy summer, everybody. That's the official kickoff into the summer. Jack Kerouac, Into the Grateful Dead. It's the Bennington Show. I'm Ron Bennington. There's Gail Bennington.
Yo.
And I am Ron Bennington. We are the only father-daughter radio team in the history of radio. We will be on break next week. We always take the 4th of July week out, and who knows, maybe Gail will be having a baby or two during that time. It's very possible.
It's possible.
Yeah.
I'm going to say unlikely, but I think it is possible.
But we do have an announcement to make about that. Shreka Love wrote to us, I guess, last week and said she demands that we. I don't know what happens with the on demand, Chris, but what doesn't Raw Dog have that the other channels have?
What Raw Dog doesn't have is that you can't rewind and fast forward in real time as much as you want during the live show.
I mean, as much as you want, at all, right?
At all, yeah.
Yeah. So this is important to certain people who listen to the show to have this on demand feature. I promise Shrekalov I would walk out that door if I was not given it. And they said, go ahead and walk, because we're not spending the money to do that to Raw Dog. It's a whole different kind of station. But they did offer this to move us to Faction Talk, and that's where we are right now. So I wanted to let people know that we are going to Faction Talk Channel 103, and that starts Monday, July 9th. Monday, July 9th.
Yeah! You're welcome, Shreka.
Because of that, we got to get moving vans, and we got to be able to move from where we are now, Raw Dog, 4 channels away to channel 103. But, you know, we've been on different channels here. It just really doesn't matter because you're on the Sirius thing and you're on the Sirius app, and it's all the same. The difference is we are now going to be on from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. in the East. And in the Rocky Mountain time, we'll be on the same time as we always were in the East, but later in Rocky Mountain.
Oh, okay.
If that makes any sense.
It does.
So the new time, 2 p.m. in the East to 5 p.m., still in the East. So that's, noon to 3 on the West Coast? Or is it 11 to 2?
11 to 2 on the West Coast.
Okay. But because you have the on-demand features, it doesn't matter what time we're on, does it?
Yes. Listen when you enjoy.
When you demand to listen.
Yeah. Now the only thing we have to move all these posters we put up. My Leonardo DiCaprio.
I just threw water down on the ground here. It's a way of blessing it.
Well, you were so upset that we had to move these posters.
I didn't know about the posters, and I didn't know it was going to be even earlier in the West than it is in the East.
Yeah.
Is that possible?
How? So do we have to be here for both times? I don't know how it works.
This is the day that we get back from vacation, Chris?
Yes, Monday, July 9th.
All right. Monday, July 9th. You can let everyone know if you're because I know the weird thing is this happening today where a lot of people's vacations already started, and then next week when people are going to be knee deep, and then they're going to come back and listen on Monday when we won't be here. One of the things that you can say to Don is, well, they run some shows in that time zone, for like a week or so.
Yeah.
So everybody can catch up. But 2 p.m. to 5 p.m., and this is an extra 2 hours that I can sleep in. So I can finally sleep till 1.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you,
You've always
I
wanted.
can't be getting up at 11 a.m.
Is there a way to delete your alarm clock on your iPhone? Because I
No.
think I'm going to. There's no reason.
There is no reason. You have to get up when the clock tells you. You got to listen what your watch says. Vito, is this workout for you or not for you?
This is great.
Yeah.
This is great for me.
Quite frankly, I don't know how I feel about it, but at least I get Shreka off my tuchus.
Finally.
Because it's a bitch bite constantly with her. You know what I mean? Part bitch, part bite.
I'm tired of answering to the man, though,
Yeah, that's true. But we'll be on demand just like we've always been on demand, but now with better ways to
Fast forward, rewind. To your heart's content.
Pause?
Pause as well, yes.
Yes.
Pause, fast forward, rewind. Go anywhere you want in the show.
When I say pause, I expect my dog to put his hands up to me.
Cute.
Pause. Oh, you just did it then, Vito? Connor's here, and we just, I'm going to tell you right now, we've jammed before the show today to New Orleans GPS. Connor, you banged it out today. Today was
Thank you.
some amazing music. It was much better than I expected.
Excellent. I worked really hard on those records.
Yeah.
I wanted them to sound best for you.
Thank you very much.
I had to, took a lot for me to sing like that, but
Yeah.
it worked out.
That's beautiful. And Chris?
Yes.
Would you please thank Connor for all the hard work that he did on this?
Thank you, Connor, for all the hard work you've done.
Maybe you could send him a nice letter or something.
Okay, like by post.
Yeah, a letter, but you know what would be really great? It's like an edible arrangements or something.
Okay,
You
all
know,
right.
With
something-
weed? Dude, why hasn't anybody thought of that
Yeah,
yet?
that's a good idea.
Yeah. Wait a minute. I had this fucking premise for a movie about edible weed, and I can't even remember what it is now. I don't know how people are into the edibles as much as they are. There's no way to gauge.
No.
There's no way to gauge. I don't give a shit what they say to you.
No, I only personally made pot brownies once. So this is home cooking, and it was like way difficult to gauge. Now I can't imagine if someone did it on a professional level and actually made them delicious.
They're not professionals. They act like they're professionals. You go there, you think they're professionals. They're just the same dude that was making pot brownies. They're just
Thank you
allowed to
very
do it.
much. Thank you for saying that.
They're just allowed to do it in the kitchen now.
Yeah,
Like-
I got, you know what? I got fooled by all the fancy packaging.
Yeah,
No,
it may,
that's not them. That's somebody else.
it may look like you're at a 7-Eleven, but it's the same fucking dude. Now, when I was younger, we would never make brownies or anything, but one of our older brothers in my neighborhood came back from Germany, right? He and his girlfriend, they were stationed over there, and they brought back, I don't even know how they did it, but enough fucking hash that everybody had hash for a long, long time. And what we were doing is like we would eat some hash, just eat like the dirt, it tastes like dirt,
Yeah.
and then smoke fucking hash. And that's when it really kicks in. An edible, if you smoke something too, it's like a match on gasoline. But I remember sitting on the couch, and it just creeps.
Yeah.
It just you creeps and you're like, oh, that's a lot, and then it creeps up more, and you're like, oh, I didn't think it was going to that far, and then the creep comes back on. So you're just fucking,
Yeah.
So I'm sitting on the couch in my home, and I'm a kid, and the dog is sitting next to me. I mean, it just seemed like every time I looked over to look at the dog would just slowly look at me, and like we were just like I'd have never done this before, but you just lock eyes with a dog, and you're just fucking like, oh. And it just seemed like he was about to tell me something. And I really, you know what I mean? Like there was such intelligence in his eyes. I'm like, this is so fucking soulful, me and this dog are. But then he wouldn't, whatever it was he had to say, either he couldn't or refused to say it to me. And then I just went like this in front of my family. Say it. So that's why I would tell you, be careful with edibles, kids. One more time, I want to give people the details that we are once again moving the show, but it's still on Sirius XM. I don't know if this is what anyone would consider a move these days. It used to be a major thing when you left one radio station for another.
Everything's changed.
Yeah.
We're moving to Faction Talk, Channel 103, starting Monday, July 9th, and will now start airing at 2 p.m. in the East. 2 p.m. in the East.
Yes. All right, so that's the entire announcement.
That's the announcement, yes.
Okay. And then the on-demand will be the same place?
On demand will be the same place, but now when
Better.
you're listening, it'll be better, yeah. And listening live, we'll be able to fast forward and rewind. Fast forward and rewind.
And pause.
And pause.
Do
All
we
three.
put like the unmasked up separately, or do we break the show down separately?
Yes, they're put up separately, yes.
And the show is broke down separately?
And the show is broke down into segments, yes.
Oh, here's what I want to do. Vito, this is your concerns?
Yeah.
I'm going to work with you more on this to
Okay.
make that much easier and funner.
Okay.
Gail, I want you to have that baby of yours.
Okay, great. I'll work on that.
Chris, would you please thank Connor for all the great work?
Connor, thank you so much.
You're so
teasing
welcome.
Because he worked on that GPS too, and it was just it surprised me, guys. I'm going to tell you right now.
You guys did a great job.
Yeah.
Some great music. And that premieres Saturday, July 7th at 3 p.m. on D-Trax Channel 27.
I'll tell you what's great about it. There was some artist that I hadn't known before we, were doing this, but then there was also songs by artists that I knew that, we hadn't done before. So it's really a lot of fun. July 7th, I know what I'm going to be doing. I'm you listening here.
Yeah.
Now, Gail, you got
so much fun.
You got a little card and gift sent to you, and I'm looking at this, and I see a teddy bear with the Bowie lightning bolt.
This is from Rush is the Worst, a.k.a. Love It or Shove It, a.k.a. Laura. And this is Rockabye Baby lullaby renditions of David Bowie.
Wow, this is adorable.
I know, this is so cool.
Right off, go to track 5. I just want to see what the baby's going to be listening to. And by the way, I love. We only give xylophones to children now.
Yeah,
Do you ever
this is
notice
a
that?
children's instrument.
I'm always happy to have one.
Yeah. Why does this have to be for kids? I'm enjoying it.
Did you ever see like the little music books where they just put the orange spot? And you're like, if you just hit it,
Yeah.
in time you're making it. Well, that's cute.
It's so cute.
Go to track 12. I really thought they were going to be singing now. I do like
Aw, this is so cute.
I'm going to miss her so much when she goes to sleep.
I know. I was thinking that yesterday. I was like, you try so hard to put your baby down, and then do you just go like, wake up?
Dude, I used to feel like that all the time. If I didn't fall asleep with the baby, I'd just be like, now what? Soap bars.
Okay. So she'll have different, shaped soaps?
I just make a sharper, smaller soap bar than what I gotta do.
Oh, so a lot of them are still going to be rectangular.
I was thinking, if you wanted to go out to dinner or something, Shelby could easily go over and watch
That's true.
the baby for you.
I would be honored.
Would
Are you good with babies?
I would do it. Yeah.
Vito,
Sure,
are you
I'd
good
be.
with babies?
Good with 4 and up.
Okay, so we got to wait for 4 years before
right.
we get
Wait
help
for
from
me,
you.
and then I can help. And then
Chris, when do you jump in?
I don't think I should. I mean, if
He-
you're in a pinch.
He wants to. Oh,
You don't pinch babies.
Oh,
unless.
lesson.
Here's what we're gonna do. We'll get a children's version of Tommy, and you could be Uncle Ernie fiddling about.
No,
Disgusting.
Chris.
No.
You can't fiddle about.
Do you think it's all right? Leave the girl with Chris Stanley. Do you think it's all right?
all right.
It's had for few too many years. I think it's all right.
What happened to my relaxing bed music?
We're at home. I know. Go to. I'm gonna give you the next track to go to. Let's see how this one does. 10. Track 10. Bit later on today, Gus Van Sant and the Unmasked, featuring Rich Voss. All right, before I put this away, I do want to just hear Life on Mars again, because I love that.
Yeah, I know. That one was
It
so
really
perfect.
reminds me of her, too.
I know.
You should do the baby room and all Bowie. Like little Bowie stuff. Like all from all the different years.
I know, like little dolls, like little handmade dolls of every Bowie.
Or like those Russian dolls, but it's a different Bowie
Oh,
inside
love
each
it. She's so glam.
one. Yeah, she is. She's not show off. She's she's a boy or a girl. Listen to this. I wonder if Vito and Chris are ready to be uncles.
Are you? Are you guys ready?
I'm not
You
sure.
always have to have a buck ready to give it to the baby.
Okay.
If not, that's a $1
Shit.
It's true. This is gonna
I
get
didn't know
really
that was the
expensive
custom.
because I'm
Yes,
gonna
it's a
bring the baby
custom.
in every
I'm gonna
day.
be like, stop bringing the baby in. I'm out of singles.
Would you guys be annoyed if I brought the baby in all the time? Good.
We could put a playpen right in here.
Yeah. They're a little pack and play.
I'd be like, Chris, would you do me a favor and check this milk and make sure it's warm enough?
That's milk I pumped, by the way. That's not formula.
All right.
Taste the pump milk and see what it's like.
Would you think it was weird to taste breast milk of your coworker
I don't
and
know.
friend?
If it tasted good, I bought a lot of it.
Okay, that actually went too far.
Yeah, that's sick.
And you didn't have to say from the source and go like
Yeah, you
that.
did. He
That
put
was
this-
gross.
I'm excited that somebody's finally going to be able to use the mother's room upstairs.
You know they're in there, but you're just not allowed in. But there are mothers
Just one of-
pumping.
like one of you, like one of the people here.
Maybe you'll get to be friends with some of the other young mothers.
Yeah, that's true.
You're like, yeah, colic. I hate it. Don't you hate
Oh
colic?
God.
You know what I do like? Booties. Little warm booties.
Now, do you guys have lullaby renditions of David Bowie? We find it to be so great,
Yeah.
such a life changer.
I had some Metallica for babies, but still too loud and too scary.
We just put it on, and then I just sit back, have a white wine, just chill. Like, thank God Jesus lived. I'm gonna have to drink a lot more white wine than I used to. I'm a mom now.
I like a little white wine after I put the baby down, and then I just put a noose up on the ceiling. I had it. I like that. Hey, on demand this month. I'm not going to tell you guys anything about it. It's a very weird, independent sci-fi. No stars. No one you've ever heard before, and it's called, I believe it's either Endless. Yeah, I think it's Endless. That's all I'm telling you. Don't look at anything.
I
Don't
won't look
read
at a
it.
thing. I'm gonna watch it though.
They're going to be at Comic-Con this year, and I'm going to go see it, though. Won't be any line at all.
Are you gonna dress up as one of the characters?
As Endless?
I'm dressed as one of them now.
What?
See, that's why I need to see it. I didn't even get the reference.
Yeah. Is there any story that you're looking forward to telling the baby?
There is definitely baby books that I am excited. There's one book in particular I have to find called The Dream Child because I loved it so much when I was a kid, but I think it's out of print. But I've got to find it. But they're like, I love baby books so much.
Me too.
And I love, as just like a classic story, I love Peter Pan. I love Peter Pan.
You know what I really like, and it's been forgotten, is the American mythology. So Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah,
would
those are
be
great.
The Headless Horseman. Who was the guy who jumped the Twister? He was Pecos Bill or something. That one, Paul Bunyan and his big blue ox. This was
Rip Van Winkle.
Rip Van Winkle. Both of those are very close.
Yeah.
Headless Horseman and Rip Van Winkle were close. And here's the thing. I don't know why we did away with that. That
I don't know.
that
those
was
are cool.
American fairy tales, kind of.
Yeah, I feel like we should bring those back.
I also want to tell the baby about the time I beat up 4 bikers in the bar.
Okay.
And left with a big busty blonde who told me I was all that.
What year was this?
Huh? A baby will never ask what year it is. They'll just completely accept.
Yeah.
Did you grow up with Stregonona?
Stregonona. Yes, I did. Yeah,
Okay.
that's the Italian witch.
That was my favorite book.
Yeah.
Really? That's odd.
I loved Stregonona so much. Like Little Anthony,
And the Imperials?
yeah, them too.
Yeah. Now, is that because your mom was a Stregonona?
Yeah.
She a little witchy?
All
Catholic women, particularly Italians, are a little witchy.
You can't help it.
Yeah, they use the saints a lot for spells.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
What's the Lost? St. Anthony's. the
St.
one.
Anthony.
Yeah.
I grew up thinking that was 100% real. Like if my mom, I
You're
would
saying
just
it's offensive to Catholics right now.
no, but I mean like I grew up like my mom just panicking, walking around the house, going St. Anthony, St. Anthony. Just,
Yes, we all did, and it was considered 100% real.
And it still is. It's real to me, damn it.
You know what I thought was real? Jesus and being on a cross.
It's like, why are they telling such a scary story?
I remember I said to my parents, I go, why didn't he use his powers? They're like, use his powers what? I go to beat them. And they came after him.
He immediately just did like Spidey.
Love it, Sheva. Thank you so much for that.
Yes,
because that is the
that is
sweetest
so
thing.
Sweet. So incredibly thoughtful. I love it, and I can't wait to play it for her.
Yeah. I've been waiting to send you. I'm not going to say it. Hey, plug what we got later coming on.
Coming up later, Gus Van Sant. He'll be in studio for Don't Worry, He Won't Get Too Far on Foot. That comes out in select theaters Friday, July 13th. And after that, the Rich Voss Roast at around 2 p.m. That'll be airing. The Rich Voss Roast is available now at vossroast.com to either rent or purchase.
I got to get you to come to an unmasked, Chris. I think you would love it.
I've been to many.
Where?
I've been to vast majority.
At one point, though, I was looking around and didn't see you, so I don't think you were there.
I was in the shadows.
Why?
Sad.
You weren't accepted?
Shelby's been to 2 unmasked now.
Yeah.
2 more than Chris.
That's bullshit.
Awful people. What was more your favorite? Because you saw Tom Papa and you saw Rich Voss.
I really liked both of them, but I really felt I was interested more in Rich Voss, especially when he got very personal and he started talking about his life. Like I like
the drug
things
addiction
like that.
stuff.
Yeah.
I love when anyone talks about drug addiction.
Yeah.
I can listen to anyone's I bottomed out story. And when they start to get sober, I'm like, whatever.
But it honestly is just, it's so interesting for me because it's like as a comedian and like I haven't gone to so many like comedy shows, and like now that I'm kind of into it now, I just feel like I understand so much more. And I feel,
Are you ready to do stand up?
Oh my God, no. I feel like I would get eaten alive.
No, not at all.
I mean, you guys like work so hard to like get to like where you need to be and like to have people.
Zero. Zero.
Just
I'm
comes
gonna
naturally?
Less than naturally. Here's what I always do. I try to look at another funny person and then just say what they say. I'm going to be doing 10 shows at the Cellar over this 4th of July break, so that's going to be a lot of fun.
And go to comedycellar.com for tickets and all the schedules.
That's awesome.
Comedycellar.com.
Not that they need you. Because there's a lot of people. I mean, we saw it the other day. They were down there. It's just amazing, right?
It's such a great place to see comedy. So if you're close or nearby, definitely go check him out this week because that's going to be awesome.
And it looks like I'm going to be on the road with Bob Skaggs as his co-singer.
When did this happen? He hasn't even come in yet.
Lido. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Love that song.
Yeah, man. Yeah, me too. I love that song. And what's the other one that was come out that was just so funky around the same time? Bum, 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 bum.
Oh, yeah. I know what you mean. I don't know the name of it.
Oh, Lowdown.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Lowdown, that's
yeah,
it.
Dirty
Yeah.
Lowdown. Yep. Remind me, Eddie Trunk asked me if we did as poorly with a guest that he had.
Okay.
You already know without me even saying.
Yep, sure.
Yeah. I don't even believe ours is. Well, I'm not going to get into that now. All right, so we're ready for Boz Skaggs.
We're ready. Boz's new album, Out of the Blues, comes out in stores, online, and on streaming services Friday, July 27th. And he'll be touring throughout 2018. Go to BozSkaggs.com for all of his dates.
And I'm going to say this. If you can get a chance to see him, he's unbelievable live. And these shows are selling. I mean, he's selling out big venues all over. Steve Jordan produced the album prior to this one. And both these albums are just stunningly great.
Yeah,
I
the
never
new one
thought
is really fantastic.
someone like in their 70s could be crushing it, but he is. So I want to play, this is one of my favorite songs on this new album. This is Rock and Stick by Boz Skaggs. That is Rockin' Stick, the opening track off of Out of the Blues, brand new album by Boz Scaggs. That comes out in stores, online, and streaming services Friday, July 27th. And Boz will be touring all throughout 2018. Go to bozskaggs.com for all of his dates and tickets. Great to see you again, my friend.
Thank you. Nice to see you, too.
Another great album. Congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you.
Now, does touring as much as you do, does that help as you get back into the studio? Do you feel like you have the right players around you?
I think I've got the right players around me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the most famous people ever to play music are on this album.
There's certainly each and every one of them is got his own. Yeah. They're great in their own right. Any way you want to cut it. Well, you know the names. You want to bring them up, or I will. Jim Keltner on drums.
Unbelievable.
Ray Barker Jr. on guitar. Charlie Sexton on guitar. Daryl Bramhall Jr. on guitar. Jim Cox.
Willie Weeks is on this
Willie
stuff.
Weeks on bass. Yeah.
So these are the most respected players out there, and certainly
among them.
Yeah.
Among them most respected.
But it is just a fantastic sounding album, and there seems to be kind of a freedom in the last couple of albums, I think.
Yeah, it's completely free. We're exploring where it all came from us. There's a time to do things new, and then there's a time to sort of return to the beginnings, and returning to the beginning is really a lot of fun.
Well, also because that sound will be new to a lot of young people. So I think that's kind of fascinating.
I think it'll be fascinating to see. There are a couple of tracks on there that I think, I'm not blowing my own whistle here, okay?
Yeah.
I guess that's what I'm doing in this setting. But really, we hit a couple of things that I've never been able to hit before. There's a track called Little Miss Night and Day, in which features Charlie Sexton and Daryl Bramhall playing guitars that I don't think it's ever hit that groove quite like it hit in the studio that day, and I'm really, really proud of that. I'm really pleased, and that made my life.
Do you know something like that right away when you're recording a track and you know that this is going to be the one?
Not really. You know, there's so much else going on in your mind and in the room and in the studio when you're recording. We came together for that. You just converge, at 11 o'clock on Monday morning or whatever time it is, and there's a sizzle in the air, and it's really exciting, and it's really strange and beautiful. You can design this dream team. I mean, we worked on 2 albums, essentially the same group before, and it was very successful, and we feel close in that way, but you never know really what's going to happen on that given time and place. So it's a nervous. It's wonderful to get to see the cats you haven't seen in a while, and there's a great energy in the air, and then you start tracking, and it feels great. That's all fine. We're getting everything in the first take or the second take or the third take, but it's really only when you step away from the whole process a week later or so.
You need a little time to know.
Yeah, you step away from it, and then you go push up the faders and see what's really there. And that's when you really, I think it comes through heavy.
Well, the previous album was produced by Steve Jordan, right?
That's right, yeah.
Now, did he do this one, or?
No, this is a trilogy in a manner of speaking. Jordan produced the first 2 and played drums on those. This third album, I wanted to continue the vibe, and I produced the third one.
Cool.
And Keltner played drums instead of his good friend Jordan.
I just, I love that you used the word groove already, because that's exactly what the whole thing felt like to me from beginning to end. This is one of the old school, just put the album on, leave the album on. It sets that kind of mood. But you go back to kind of that Texas blues sound that you, I guess, grew up on. And where did that entire love affair come from? Is this from being a kid or?
Growing up in Oklahoma and Texas, there's a certain, we're all listening to the same radio. I say we all, I'm talking about any number of my peers all over America and in Europe as well, not to limit it to places like Japan and Australia. But radio was radio. It was when we first heard Elvis Presley and Fats Domino and Chuck Berry and all of the greats. So we all have that in common, but because it was a little different growing up in Texas because there was a particular style and a particular the music. A lot of the blues came to us perhaps a little heavier than it came to my brothers and sisters in Chicago and in New York, but. The music out of New Orleans and southern Louisiana was around us. So there was a particular thing that we got to hear, perhaps, that everybody else wasn't tuned into. Guitar players were big in Texas. So most of my friends who are Texas musicians, Doug Somm and Jimmy Vaughn and Stevie Vaughan and all of them grew up listening to T-Bone Walker and Freddie King and Lightning Hopkins and as well as all the other Chuck Berrys and so forth.
Yeah, it really is interesting how the blues changes as it moves up and down the Mississippi River. That there are always each part of the country kind of puts their own little stamp on it.
Has its own, yeah. New Orleans was to me the home of so much of the music, but you get up to Memphis and you start the Delta influence is heavier and so on and so forth. I'm sure there are encyclopedias of the blues all about that kind of stuff, but it's a very real thing to those of us who.
And it was also fascinating that it mattered to English boys. You know what I mean? That those kids had picked up on it. Now, you went to Europe pretty early on, right?
Mm-hmm. It must have been 1965 that I went. And it was greatly to see what was going on in London because there was more stuff going on in London in that vein than there was in Austin, Texas, where I was living at the time.
Right.
And although a lot of the music that I was really dialed into at that time was the music that was coming out of Houston, Texas, and Chicago, and but there weren't many of us playing it at that time. Whereas in London, on just about any given night of the week, you could go hear people like John Mayall or Long John Baldry or this, that, or the other, and they had a full repertoire of all of our Texas stuff that they had reproduced in the most beautiful way. It was really quite a tribute to them and the music itself.
There was always that, great appreciation for the blues, and a lot of those players would come over there and have no idea.
That's right.
The way that they were welcomed.
That's right. The original artists came over and they were welcomed like the great stars that they were. But,
yeah. The album comes out on July 27th. It's Out of the Blues, and as we pointed out, it's just such a terrific album. Great players on this, and there's obviously you're going back to the blues, and there's originals, and of course you covered Neil Young on the beach in this. And now when you look back over this, I think that you've had a time just to rub up against everybody who's been in music over the years. You've been around so many different scenes and styles.
Well, I wouldn't say everybody, but it is pretty remarkable. If you're out there long enough and you're on the scene and you're touring and you're recording and you're in and out of studios and you're around, it becomes a smaller and smaller world. It's still a vast universe in its way. I certainly can't claim to know many of my heroes in that regard, but there are there's a series of dots that get connected
Right.
over time. Yeah, I've seen a lot and been through a lot of stages of the way music has evolved, and from the 50s on.
Yeah.
So here we are.
But I know that you're accepted in country circles, blues circles, rock circles. You're part of that San Francisco scene. I've heard Daryl Hall talk about you, about being an influence as a soul singer. It's always fascinating to me how many different places you've been able to go with your career.
Well, I like to. I like all kinds of music. I'm not unique in that respect, but I've sort of foolishly at times chased down some of the music that I love, that I want to try to sing it. I can't help but want to try to. It's like an itch that has to be scratched. I like that way of doing it, and I like to try to do it myself. And I made a point when I was in New York, when I first started my recording career, of going to Philadelphia and finding Daryl, just because he was a kindred soul out there in a dark universe that we were obviously listening to the same things. And it happens that any number of people who you can tell that they've been listening to your stuff,
right?
You know, there are only a few places that in the obscure universe of music that they could have known about that thing, and then I've come to meet people. For instance, there was a radio station in Memphis, Tennessee called, I say Memphis, I mean Nashville. It was called WLAC. And as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old kid, I used to go to sleep listening to my radio from this station out of Nashville. And I was hearing things that couldn't have been heard around Texas at that time. And over the years, I've met a dozen musicians who came from all over America who were tuned into that same radio station. And it not necessarily started their career, but it informed the way that they created music for the rest of their lives. It's a small world and it's a large world in that respect.
But it also goes to show that we never are sure who we are influencing. You know what I mean? Like at any given time, you're like, is anybody hearing this? But maybe just the right people that are supposed to be hearing it.
Well, everybody's gonna find every generation is gonna have its own, and I don't know how old was Bruno Mars when he first got to hear James Brown,
right?
You know? Whereas my generation, I guess it was probably 18 or 19 years old before I heard James Brown live at the Apollo Theater. To think that this generation of radio listeners or people who, wherever they get it these days, have access to all the music in the world, and how that's manifests itself is fascinating.
Yeah,
because you can hear bits of influences from all over the world, from all rhythms and beats out of Africa and out of the Far East, and vocal stylings from Europe and from Nashville and Asia. It's a wonderful time to absorb music. Music is the most important breaker down of walls and barriers in the world now. History is evolving because of access to music and what it says and what it means.
I also think it's so almost kind of outdated to be the type of person who likes one genre of music, which is really, really cool, because to me, that's also how musicians think about music as well. Most musicians you don't hear only like one genre of music or only like the genre that they play. And I think that now, if there's, any positive from, the internet and the effect of being able to have access to so much stuff, is I think that most people feel that way now about music in general.
Well, I mean, you used to only have enough money for a couple albums. So that music you listen to constantly. And I remember a kid who wrote to me, and said, "Who's somebody that I've never heard?" So I brought up the Velvet Underground to him, and then he writes back on Monday. He goes, "Okay, listen to that. What else you got?" I go, "Dude, this is I just gave you a lifetime's
That's
worth
right.
of music.
Follow that track of the Velvet Underground, and you'll open up a whole world.
Yeah.
Of course.
But
well, it's like to me, the earliest example of that was when we were at. And this is not the first. I'm not the first one who's saying this because I've heard it expressed by other of my peers. But it was a thing that, like at lunch hour when I was in the 5th grade, you bring in your 45s, and it's free time, so other people are out in the playground or hanging around the lunchroom or whatever. But you go to a classroom that's got that little 45 player, and somebody brings in a new Fats Domino, somebody brings in an Elvis. I remember I heard Chuck Berry, I heard Maybelline for the first time. It's one of those moments when the clouds part and the lightning strikes.
Yeah.
It was like hearing music from Mars. It was the most fascinating thing I'd ever heard. But again, people are bringing their stuff together, and you're finding like-minded people, and that's where it all begins. Radio, of course, is the greatest, influence of that in the world. Everybody finds their own. Remember when we first were able to record cassettes, everybody started making their own play tapes, their own mixtapes and stuff.
Yeah.
Now it's gone into the stratosphere with.
Yeah. I do think that more people are listening to music alone, though, rather than parties. Like my generation, because somebody had a new album, everyone sat together and listened to the new Stones record.
That's right.
And
first
that
day,
was
somebody goes to the record store and they bring it back, and there are 40,
and you would
20
get that,
people in a room.
Yeah,
right?
and you were like, you think, you know what I mean? You're looking at each other. It's too much to take in at the same time. So I do think that's something that's a little bit missing with kids. But the fact that you could, join iTunes and be exposed to an endless amount of music for a couple of bucks a month is unbelievable to
unbelievable. Me. But you're right. It is isolating in its own, in its way too.
Yeah.
When you see, people walking around the streets or riding in airplanes or with their earbuds in, it's a personal experience in that way.
Yeah.
Good. It's good. But then again, music is not perhaps the communal thing that it was when it was so precious and it was individual.
Well, even in New York, we used to complain about people carrying boomboxes around, but that was an amazing way to hear new music. And I was saying this to a friend of mine. I go, it's summer in New York City because you hear Latin music everywhere. It's coming out of cars. It's coming out of windows. And it's a tremendously romantic thing. And because it has the same sound now that it did in 1962 in a lot of ways.
And those were the formative years. Actually, you could intellectualize about what formed what, but so much of the music that is in the zeitgeist in the world today.
Yeah.
It happened in the 50s in New York. It happened in those were the building blocks of what's going on today. The rhythms and the ethnicity. Help me. Ethnicity that you could hear on the going from block to block in New York or in Chicago or hearing on the radio.
Well, you were in one of those scenes in San Francisco where the music got heavier, and that music is of that time and place, but still shows up in either commercials or movies or whatever. It's always fascinating to me about those times and places that take place where a bunch of music
that was
pops
probably the biggest explosion of music that has ever happened, and I mean this in a way that there was live music every day. I was late to the scene. I came to San Francisco in 1967. It started several years before that, and it stayed for several years after that scene. But to have Ravi Shankar and Vanilla Fudge and Cream and Jimi Hendrix and the blues all in one place live day after day after day after day. Musicians came from all over the world to that melting pot and interpollinated and started an explosion that
And you're right.
It just couldn't have happened at any other time before that, and it hasn't happened since.
If it was just any one of those artists, it would be. If it was just Janis and Big Brother, that would be something. But the fact that there was so many different things happening at the same time, it's stunning.
Mm-hmm. And then they cross-pollinated.
Yeah.
You know, people picked up on blues style, and the folk scene in California picked up on this, that. The Texas Janis Joplin comes in, Jimi Hendrix comes from another universe, and so on and so forth. And there it was. It was a fantastic time.
Congratulations for this album. Out of the Blues is, well, it's everywhere you can get music, is at July 27. And the fact that, Buzz, you're out there selling out theaters and amphitheaters, it's just an amazing thing. I'm so glad that it's still going on for you, man, because it's just great.
Oh, thanks.
And
I feel really lucky.
You sound unbelievable, too.
Oh, thanks, man.
Buzz
Appreciate you
gang,
having me.
We'll see you next time, my man.
Righto.
She keep me rocking around the world, my little Miss 90.
This is the official start to summer. Even though summer has already happened, this is the kickoff weekend.
Yes.
And when you really think about it, there's only 8 weekends until football. So
Oh, that's weird to think.
thank God. No, I seriously need some Sundays to myself. Hey, Gus Van Sant is our next guest. He's got another terrific film. This one called "Don't Worry, He Won't Get Too Far on Foot." It comes out in select theaters Friday, July 13th. Don't Worry .movie for more information. But he's just made this is some of the strangest, best films that you'll ever want to see.
Yeah, he is. He's like a true artist.
Yeah.
But yeah, this movie's no exception. I think that this is a really great film, and I hope everybody checks it out because, you know, it's an exciting thing when you get like a really good film.
When you get a good Joaquin Phoenix film.
Yeah,
and
with
by the way,
great
the subject
performances.
matter here is difficult for me. Okay, there's addiction, which is always embarrassing to me. No matter how many times I say it, I still cringe. And also my biggest phobia in the world, being paralyzed.
Yeah, right away I thought this is going to be difficult. For
That's difficult. And isn't this ironic? I am going to paralyze the Comedy Cellar audiences for 10 different shows, paralyze them with hilarity. And yet, for myself, I want to move my arms and legs. Is that weird?
Yeah,
that I
it
want
is.
to be mobile and get up and walk around? Does that make me seem like a wimp? Or as Chris called me the other day, wussy.
Wussy, some sort of combination of wimp and pussy.
That's right.
He throws it around.
Yeah, I love just calling everyone and everyone wussy.
Here's the thing that makes me feel better about being paralyzed. They're starting to have like your brain. They hook things up to your brain, and you're able to move your robot arms around.
I guess that makes it a little better.
Just a little, if I'm going to be
But
totally
yeah,
honest.
not a lot better for me. I'd still like to move the body I'm in. Oh, okay. Now I'm starting to get it, and
I
it's
don't
making
wanna-
me like a little.
I don't want to
bit
be in a
itchy.
coma aware of what's going on around me either. Oh, God. Am I falling? Just let me know if I'm falling backwards.
Oh, you're fine.
You want to get that thing off the ground. I want you to do it.
I know.
I just dropped my badge. And Chris and Gail share this thing is that if I drop something, they just want to get it immediately.
I scramble to go get it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Chris will dive to get it.
Uh-huh.
But I used to enjoy, taking my time and walking over and getting it, but now I can't get away with it. So now he
Yeah.
sees me all the time just looking at something on the floor like, somebody get it.
What bothers you about that?
I think that, okay, because these are rolly chairs, and then I think that thing is going to be rolled over.
Yeah. I've
It's not
destroyed
like
a lot
I've
of
ever rolled over my own glasses before.
You have. I've seen it happen.
Once. So we talked with Bob Skaggs. Now we're going to be talking with the great director Gus Van Sant. I want to remind everybody a little later on, it's the Rich Voss on Mass. Then go to vossroast.com. It's hilarious. Are we ready for Gus?
We are ready.
Don't worry, he won't get too far on foot. Is that what the title is?
Yeah.
Okay. Seems like like I would have said don't get far on foot. It's don't get too far on foot. Okay. Gus.
Fine, Gus. Whatever you want.
Gus Van Sant on Bennington.
Gus Van Sant is in studio with us. Don't worry, he won't get too far on foot. Comes out in select theaters Friday, July 13th. Don't worry, .movie for more information.
Congratulations on this film.
Thank you.
I can't imagine it was an easy film to convince anybody to make.
Yeah, that was hard. The original screenplay, which was developed for Robin Williams to play the role, was hard enough that it never got produced.
Right.
So there was one done in 1999 or 98, which sort of, we handed it in as screenwriters and director. We were up in Oregon and just sort of never heard what happened, they're still thinking, whatever.
Right.
It disappeared. It was Robin Williams, so he obviously had many things he could do. Then again, they called and said, let's make another draft. We did another draft in 2002, and that kind of never came back, as let's think about it for next September or something like that. So I'm not sure. I'm assuming it was because of the combination of, in those drafts, there was crazy animation. There was he had a psychiatrist. There was a psychiatrist in it. There was the AA stuff was in there. Searching for his mother, the off-color jokes in his jokes. So maybe they were the studio was not so hot. I think Elvis Mitchell had told me that he would run into Robin during that, the last 15 years, and that he always kind of said that he wasn't sure about how to play the character, so it could have been that. And I know also that Christopher Reeve, who was his friend, died in 2004. So I think that he was sort of making it as a present for him, that maybe it changed when he was gone.
And it isn't an easy film to watch, but that used to be what we loved about film, so we could discuss it. And you think, and now that's almost forgotten about. Truly, this is a film that you watch with people, and then you go back over it and compare it. And I knew somebody, and because I'm phobic about some of the things that are in this film. So that's the reason why I loved it. That's literally the reason why I loved it.
Yeah, and the performances are so heartbreaking in it too. It's there's lightness in it, but it's super heartbreaking.
It is a it's a kind of victorious subject. I've been doing press on this, so somebody was mentioning how a lot of films have death in them, and that was something maybe to avoid in a commercial film. And I realized that there was something different between death and defeat, because a lot of my films, the characters are defeated, maybe even in the beginning. And in this case, he's not really defeated. He's more victorious.
Yeah, absolutely. And that could have been handled in the wrong way, that it was almost like a Lifetime movie. Like you could have seen this movie as some kind of, hey, we can all do it. You know what I mean? But I'm a person in recovery, and there was times I was just going, oh yeah, man, it's so hard. Even when you're used to it, just being a person is not the easiest thing in the world. And that thing of, hey, I'm doing the program. Why aren't good things happening to me? All that shit went through my head throughout this entire film. And you brought up the performances. There's nobody that doesn't nail it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Particularly, I was so surprised with Kim Gordon and Beth Ditto, who, obviously I was never seen them act before, so I was blown away by their performances.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Well, how about the fact that, we've now seen Joaquin Phoenix do so many roles, and minutes into this film, you forget everything else that he did. He's just the guy. He's just John, and that's that magical, stunning thing that a really great actor can pull off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the great things that he's able to do, and with all of his roles.
Yeah.
But I think when we were shooting it, I wasn't necessarily noticing. I was seeing him do this great character, except my sound man, Felix Andrew, who's a New Yorker, he leaned over and he was like, Joaquin is just nailing every scene. And I'm like, he is? Oh, good.
Yeah.
So I was not quite, because I was in my own little situation. But it's true. He's able to do it. And I mean, I think that's what he does every time. If you look at all of his movies,
yes,
he's handing in the very best thing. He did it in To Die For. He was like transforming himself during that movie to the point where he was, making his family read the lines over and over and over and over again. He really, really works on it hard.
Well, he was so young back then, and it just I saw the film not too long ago. I'm like, oh, look how little he is. Look how thin he, but he's one of those guys like we almost just take for granted that, oh yeah, he'll come in and kill it. But it's happened so many times now.
Yeah, that's very true. And in that film, like he has he's just so dynamic. It's hard to take your eyes off him. He's scary and sad and weird and yeah, really, really crazy to pull off for a young actor.
Mm.
Yeah.
But I saw The Master not too long ago, and I'm like, this is one of the greatest performances of all time.
Yeah, it's very good.
I don't care where you go, and he's just doing that over and over. And then this. Like when they're lifting him out of the tub, I believe all the physicality, 100%
Yeah,
of it.
that's very true.
And like that is my biggest fear, by the way, since I've been a kid, is being paralyzed. It just,
really? I'm sure all of us.
I saw a couple people break their necks when I was a kid diving at really 3 different occasions. It's really strange to think. So that's always been with me. So when this movie, as it's kicking in, I'm like, I don't know. I can stay with this. I don't, because he's so believable. The whole thing runs out. And of course, the recovery stuff is dead on. And that, I was actually even thinking this when, he was entering the program back then in the 70s, it was still I think that was like the first time regular people started going in to the program, where you would hear it wasn't just like old sailors and, Bowery bums, you'd be like someone's mom's going in.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're like, what?
It was more popular.
Yes, it started to just barely mainstream at those days. And now it's just like, whoever goes.
Yeah, it wouldn't be odd to find out someone
anyone
was in recovery or yeah, absolutely.
Like your 5-year-old.
Also, while we're talking about Jonah Hill in this film, just disappears. He just disappears into that role.
Particularly big personalities like Jonah Hill and Jack Black. You don't expect them to kind of take on a character, so you think you're going to hold their personality because their personality is so strong. But yeah, across the board, it was
Well, Jack Black was tremendous, and I just love I love the scenes with them together and that whole thing of we're both in this. How do you really sit and judge the other person? And that stuff it very rarely gets told in this kind of movie because there's always a bad guy. You know what I mean? Like a dealer is somehow worse than the user, but and the reality of that thing is everybody's in it together. You're all part of each other's disease. So again, I mean, that was those things that took place in this film was just so dead on. What's it like to get this film out there now? Do you worry that the studios will be able to market this properly, or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah, I think it's been going very well. Its first exposure was Sundance in February, and that was the kind of baby steps of like finding out things about like what response was. I think the response has been good enough that it'll be easier for the studio to get a little more aggressive. And I think they will actually follow the audience interest. They'll, as opposed to, kind of blowing it through like with a big release.
Right.
No matter what it is, they're going to like react. There's been a lot of a very positive reaction from the theaters themselves, which I think is where it starts. They want to book it as opposed to wait and see how like July 13th looks. They already want to play so that's already a great indication. They could cancel those, but I guess
Right. But I mean, if there is such a thing as counter programming, this is a different kind of movie for the people who just don't have small kids and want to see a cartoon with them. You know what I mean? Like, I just, it's so concerning to me the way that the theater just seems to be a Dave and Buster's compared to the way that when I grew up watching films and the way that, it was supposed to be an act, go be a member of the audience.
Yeah. That was, I grew up in Connecticut, and our local theater, it was a one theater town, and we would just go as high school students. You just go to the movie, and you didn't really know what the movie was. It was just the movie.
Yeah.
And as you're sitting down, it's a war movie. Okay, all right, gotcha.
Right.
It was like that every week, something different. They wouldn't hold it over because it wasn't that kind of town. But it was just a different presentation, and that was my experience of going to the movies.
Do you remember what any of those
Yes.
films were? Yeah.
I remember seeing Dr. Strangelove. I saw The Birds, of all things, in the early, mid to early 60s. Rosemary's Baby. I might have seen 2001 in that theater. Some of the films we only saw half of because the kids would always, the high school kids would sit on one side of the theater, and they would, create problems so that they would just kick half the theater out. They'd say this entire half has to go.
Right.
Because somebody was like shouting swear words or something. It was a community thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were some great movies. There's some sort of spacing on some of them, but
yeah, I think that's I feel like I saw film the same exact way when I was a kid, of just showing up at the theater. You didn't really read anything about it before.
It's the best way to do it, I think.
Yeah, it's well, of course, sometimes, but I remember when I saw Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, the Sam Peckinpah thing, and being just totally stunned at the end of the film because I'm like, the guy died. You know what I mean? The guy that we fell in love with through this whole thing and has proven himself worthy. And I think at that point I'm like, how do you find other? How do you find other movies like this? And I think that was like the first time that I realized like somebody made this. You know what I mean? Not just, this isn't just something we're watching, but who would have thought to do this? And I hope that young people can still be like kind of challenged that way, other than just looking at the computer fighting itself
Yeah.
over and over.
Well, I always think it's kind of interesting that people who kind of fall in love with film, it's similar to the way most people feel about music when they're young.
Yeah.
But some people have the connection with film that it has that same thing where the films that you see when you're a kid kind of get your gears turning, that you're like, this is what I want to do with my life.
Right.
But you know, I think there's a through line that everybody feels that way passionately about music, because you could just be, you know, a music fan
Right.
and have that kind of passion.
But then also, and we're talking about Don't Worry, He Won't Get Too Far on Foot. John Callahan, that kind of humor that he had is more and more challenging today than probably even when he put it out. Everyone is looking to see what is offensive and what shouldn't be said today. So that selling point of like dark humor, harder and harder. What had you crazy about John enough to make this film?
Well, it started as this kind of assignment from Robin Williams.
Mm-hmm.
So it was partly that I knew John's general story. I hadn't read the book at first. I think I said yes before I even read the book. His general story as a member of Portland society was that he was responsible for the cartoons. The cartoons themselves were an issue or an amazing occurrence in your weekly paper. They didn't always cause trouble, but occasionally there'd be ones where you heard, people writing into the paper and saying like, this shouldn't be in the paper. He shouldn't be doing cartoons. Like, stop him. The paper, which was Willamette Week, was, they kept printing them. They kept, and it was whatever he wanted. They weren't editing him, which was strange because they were editing other things, but they weren't editing that one thing. And that alone was very interesting. I knew that you could see him around town. By the time that mid-'90s, where Robin wanted to make the film, John had already been on 60 Minutes. He was like an icon in our small town, Portland. And he was from Oregon. He was very visible, going very fast in his wheelchair around town, dangerously. And I hadn't met him except for maybe at parties a couple of times. I didn't really know him that well. So between his quadriplegia, his cartooning, I knew vaguely that there was a famous cartoon he did called "I Thought I Was an Alcoholic," which occurred in a kind of lefty arts publication, which was beautiful looking. The printing job that they did of it, so I knew that a little bit about the alcoholism, but those things together just seemed. And then Robin Williams, I thought, I'm in. So it was the original thing. I think as I got to know John, through writing the script, going to his house, he lived only a few blocks away from where I was living. We just go over during the day, listen to him, talk about his past, or sometimes he would want to tune into a radio show. One was called Sister Paula, who was a transgender evangelical preacher. So it was a really interesting, strange show that he wanted to get, because it was usually about a tragedy in a farm in the area, and just sort of kind of entertain himself, telling us about his growing up in the Dalles, which is a small town outside of Portland. It was about 2 hours away. And he was funny. I mean, he was always looking for a pun. He was always drawing his next cartoon. Sometimes he'd think he'd get an idea and, draw the idea out. There were so many things that he was talking about that weren't in the book. Donnie, his future sponsor, or in the film it was his sponsor, was always a subject for him. He thought that he owed him a lot.
I was wondering, how was it that you kind of worked on the pacing with the screenplay? Because you kind of roll out his story, certainly not in a linear way. How did you decide the way you wanted to pace the story?
I was always attracted to a nonlinear story. I think the first one I saw was maybe, depending on when it came out, was George Roy Hill film. I'm forgetting the name. Slaughterhouse Five.
Yeah.
Which was Kurt Vonnegut's story.
Yeah.
Which I hadn't read the book, so it was the '60s. I probably saw it in the Connecticut theater. And because it was about somebody who had become unstuck in time, and Kurt Vonnegut being a writer who likes to write out of time anyway, or likes to write in small increments. I was always attracted to that. Also reading William Burroughs, cutting up stories. That it was hard making dramatic films. They were generally told in order. So in this case, I felt like his telling his own story in therapy, in his group therapy, and also from the stage where he was appearing as a celebrity of Portland, that you could keep the audience on track while you're telling the story out of order. The reason for it was probably just to get to the parts that were meaningful, told, jammed up against next to each other, so that you could have contrast to the story.
I also thought it worked in the way, like, when something like that, something traumatic takes place in your life, that thing does flash in while you're having other conversations. It's just, those things will pop back in.
And I also thought maybe, because of recovery too, is like that puzzle that you're kind of putting together of why you do what you do.
It's constant.
And,
Yeah, it's constant. And you're explaining, you're re-explaining, you're explaining it to yourself. How did you get from, you're an East Coast guy, how did you end up in Portland?
My father got a job in Portland. And so he said, we're moving to Portland. And I was just relocated 1970.
Yeah. But didn't you end up back here for school? Didn't you?
And then I came back to school in Rhode Island School of Design in Providence. And then went to LA.
Yeah, because we hear that was kind of a cool time. Gail's friend's mom was there at that time as a Talking Heads.
Oh, mid-'70s.
Yeah. I think you actually know her. Her name is Naomi.
Yeah.
But she has talked about, just what a cool scene and how many great artists were there at that time.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I knew her well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went to Italy together.
Yeah. That is true. Yeah.
So how does that how do you think that, you're there, the Talking Heads are there? How does that?
And Naomi was really into that scene too. The friends with the Talking Heads.
She has really great films of her, working with other people. But it's just like, we all watched what she was doing, looking at old pictures. Like that's how we want to, go to school, because she just had such a great artistic experience.
Her boyfriend Mark Kehoe, who lives in New York, they had at least David Byrne and Mark Kehoe had come from Baltimore. Art school in Baltimore. And so they had brought like seemingly this aesthetic, this Baltimore aesthetic, and it interfaced with the Providence aesthetic, which was kind of post-'60s, like kind of arty aesthetic of mixing all these kind of strange things together. And the school was, I think for all of us, we were all painters, like all the Talking Heads, the Naomi and Mark, we were all like physically, like, painting pictures or extending from that into performance, into performance art. And I think the Talking Heads, which Naomi and Mark were part of in their very first performance at the Bank Building, which was a painting building, everyone was sort of trying to figure out how to not be a painter, including me. I was like working in film. But originally we were painters.
It is interesting. Like that was now everyone tries to be so specific in what everything is in their life and commit to that. But there's something great to be said about, yes, I'm in a band and I paint and I'm making short films. You would love to just know that, go out there and try everything in your life. Again, I just want to say this, it's a really, really terrific film on so many levels, Gus. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For being here today.
Don't worry, he won't get too far on foot. Comes out in select theaters Friday, July 13th. Don't worry, .movie for more information. Gus Van Sant.
Thank you,
so
my
much.
friend.
Thank you.
Oh, that was fantastic.
So great.
That was very cool when you brought up Naomi like that.
I know. And even just now, as he was leaving, it was like such a sweet moment because he really made sure to make sure you say hello to Naomi for me. And
he said that they met Fellini together.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you meet Fellini?
I don't know,
story
but
I wanna
it's one I've heard before.
So this is your friend's mom.
Yeah, my best friend's mother.
My best friend's mom. And she used to hang out with Gus Van Sant and the Talking Heads.
Yeah. But how cool was that when Gus said, I mean, to me, she's in the Talking Heads. Like,
Yeah.
isn't that awesome? Or somebody could say that about me. Do you guys think of me in the Talking Heads?
I always think that.
Oh, cool.
Definitely.
All right,
I
good.
was thinking more as Devo.
Good. All
No,
right.
Excuse me. I meant to say Debo. Because you're always jacking people.
That's my butt, punk.
That is a scary good impression. Well, this is exciting because I feel like I'm in the Voss family. And Rich Voss, the Unmasked. Are we breaking first or going right into it?
We're going to break first.
Let's go right into it. No commercials.
No, we have to break.
Commercial free for the rest of the day.
We're going to have to
You know,
break.
such a little kid. He looked at Chris like this. No, don't let him
Chris,
do it,
don't
Chris.
do it. No. That money will come out of your purse. BossRoast.com. It's hilarious. We'll be right back. And this is from the Fat Black Pussycat. It's Unmasked with Rich Voss coming up next.
Live from the Fat Black Pussycat in New York City, this is Sirius XM's Unmasked with special guest Rich Voss. And now here's your host, Ron Bennington. And here's the star of the Rich Voss roast, Rich Voss.
Everybody, Rich Voss.
Wow, this is amazing.
Yes.
This is amazing. I've never got that big of an applause anywhere.
Well, we do this for people at the end of their life.
That's right.
We wanted to have your funeral while you were still here.
If you did it for the end of my career, we could have done it 3 years ago. This is amazing. Thank you for coming out during the big storm. Thank you.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, right off the bat, we wanted to talk to you about a post-Castro Cuba. And
well,
I was pointing out to the radio audience, you were dressed like you should be playing dominoes somewhere.
That's what I'm working now at OTB. So I got this shirt at a thrift store for $15. A little Jewy, but listen, I love these guayaberas. If there's any Latin people, you agree. You're wearing hot pants, but anyhow.
Oh, you're doing crowd work during the interview. Good.
Well, he talked to me. Once they talk to me, I have to answer them.
Well, right away we'll jump into your roast that's available now, right?
Thank you. At VossRoast.com. Yeah.
So that roast, when you put it together, any idea that it was going to become that kind of an iconic night? Because it really is.
Thank you. Bonnie, for my birthday a couple years ago, she threw a big surprise party. And, she loves planning and doing these things. I mean, she's an ass in other ways, but when it comes to parties.
Yeah.
So she said, what do you want to do for your birthday? I said, I don't know, let's do a roast, right? And then all of a sudden, she put this into whatever the word is to get it going.
Right. Gear is what you're looking for? Okay, there we go.
I'm going to need you for a lot of this.
Hey, Rich, look at hot pants over there. You know what I mean? Who is this guy?
So she put it into gear, and everything, she got the caterers, a cake, for after the big party after it. She said, "Who would you like on the dais?" The only person that wasn't on the dais that I would have loved would have been Keith.
And the reason why it was so close to his stroke, or
well, no, Keith. Well, because this roast was some of my best friends in the business. Opie didn't show up, but still,
we're editing that.
It's I think he was doing a pop-up.
Stop it.
Stop. I'm only kidding. In a McDonald's. Anyhow,
no, he wasn't. That's not true. None of that's true.
Listen to me.
Doing very well.
Anyhow, so these were some of my. Everywhere I go, I kill. These were some of my best friends in the world.
Who was the first person to say yes to you?
Me.
Okay.
Who was the first person? Probably Norton.
Yeah.
Norton. I would do anything for him, and he would do anything for me. I mean, Norton was the best man at my wedding. He flew to Edmonton. And I gave him a nice watch as a gift. Well, anyhow, so I did get it for free in the Oscar gift bag. So.
By the way, just let me wipe a tear away, because I had no idea this was going to be this sentimental. It's really beautiful to hear you.
Two seats are open. So she, started contacting, I guess, Norton, and then it all fell into place, with the dais.
Right.
Keith said yes, but then, he didn't feel comfortable doing a roast. He had a stroke and everything. And he, I guess, and plus Keith did a roast. We did a Patrice roast years ago, and Keith kind of had a little bit of a tough time. He walked in and tried to ad-lib a roast, which is almost impossible. So I think in the back of his mind, besides the stroke, he bailed. So I needed a minority, so I went to Luis Gomez.
This part is true. It's literally true.
I needed a minority and somebody anti-female, so we went to Lewis, and the dais was all put in place. DeRosa flew in for it. Bobby, was one of the main, and Colin. Bobby, Colin, and Norton, I wanted definitely. I mean, these are some of my best friends in the business. So she put it together, and everything just fell in place. I mean, we also have a producer, this girl, Kate Connor, who helps us with tons of stuff. And, they had posters made, tattoos made. It was just, we did a video of Patrice from the grave. And I guess it's on the extras. It didn't make the roast, but...
So why did I spend my $10?
But the Patrice from the grave was so... Because we had these tombstones that were bouncing up and down. And we took clips of him trashing me on radio. And it was so funny, but it just wouldn't work in the roast. We couldn't fit it in. And so... Is there any other questions, or am I just fucking rambling?
No. I
get lost.
I made the mistake. I pulled the string. That's me.
And my head popped and confetti came out. Oh,
Dude,
God,
I'll just say this. I mean, how many of you guys have already seen the roast already? I got to tell you, it's the funniest roast I've ever seen in my life. And it goes all the way back as far as they've done roast. It's just absolutely insanely hilarious.
Well, thank you. And the thing is, this is Murderer's Row of comics. And Bonnie opened it unbelievable. When she said to Norton, when she looked at Norton and said, "Your radio show is so bad, I'd rather listen to my daughter drowning," it kind of set the tone.
Yes, it did.
And the thing is, it was, when you're doing a roast, like when these guys are coming at you, you don't mind because you're good friends. You see some of these roasts on TV, and you see some of the people getting roasted. They're getting a little mad because they're going, "Who is this person to say this about me? They don't know me."
Yeah.
But none of it bothered me, except one comic said Bonnie slept with some guy, and I'm going, not him too. But so it doesn't hurt as much because
As much.
Well, no, because they're my friends, and we do this anyhow, sitting around. So if it was a bunch of comics that I wasn't friends with, or some like open micers or you know what I mean. But when it's coming from like a Colin or a Bobby or a Norton or Judy, it doesn't hurt as much, and you're going, it's going to be good material because they know the person before him is going to kill. They know it,
Well, I talked to Florentine about it, who was absolutely hilarious in the show. It might be the funniest thing I've ever seen him do. And he's, no, seriously, he's an amazing comic. And he said, everybody was just teeing off on him because, God forbid, his wife slept with someone else. And it was just one joke after another. And I asked him about it, and he goes, all he was thinking about was his set. He was like, nothing mattered to me. I would have only felt bad if my set didn't go well. And he gets a standing ovation in the middle of a roast. He's amazing.
Well, when he was on, Colin was up next. Yeah. And I'm sitting next to Colin, and Colin leans over and goes, what am I going to do? And Colin is ready for anything. He's so good. He's such a professional. And he was thinking, oh, my God, how am I going to follow this? And he went up and had no problem. But Florentine, you're right. I've never seen him do that well. I
don't know if I've ever seen anyone do that well. No, it was unbelievable.
You could have been at the Florentine hour special featuring Florentine with nothing but Florentine's family, and he still wouldn't have done as well. It could have been Florentine and his kid in the audience. And
now, I've seen him put together the special he was releasing, and it's about that marriage, and it's brutal and it's hilarious, man.
Well, Florentine's been through some tough shit with relationships, from his first girlfriend, and then his wife. His wife left him, for a younger guy, and left him for like a young cop. So
I'm just going to say that this isn't his Unmasked.
No.
I don't think we feel too comfortable talking about this.
Oh, well, I was going to do a line from the roast that someone
go ahead
said.
and do it.
And they were trashing him about his wife, banging some young cop. And then one of the roasters talked about my house when it caught on fire, and said the firefighters were late because they were all out there fucking Florentine's wife. And it was so funny. I got up I go, I'm going to end my career. I did a roast once. It was the Donald Trump roast at the Friars Club. And it's when the Friars broke away from Comedy Central. It was at the Hilton. There was 2,000 people. Every club owner from New York, agent, manager, anybody meant anything. Opie and Anthony were up in the audience with Norton, Bonnie, when I was dating her, my father, mother. So anybody in New York that meant anything was at this roast. Now, the first guy goes up, this guy, Stewie Stone, and kills like I've never seen anybody kill in a roast. I go, I'm going to end my career. Then Susie Essman goes up and destroys. She's really funny. She's from Curb, Susie Essman. And I go, I have to sneak off this dais because there's no way I could possibly follow this. And I'm just going to embarrass myself in front of everybody. And then Belzer went up, and I had no problem going on after him. I couldn't keep up with him in acting, but he went up. And I remember it was Regis Philbin was the roast master. And it was a month after Dangerfield died, 1 month. And I walked up and I said, a big hand for Regis. I go, originally they asked Rodney to MC this, but he said, I'd rather be dead, right? It was a month, silence. 2,000 people staring at me, right? I said, don't fuck with me, I'll bring Belzer back. So the pressure, the
pressure's there.
So when this roast, I'm sitting there and I'm watching people slaughter. Slaughter. And I go, how am I going to follow this? I am a genius and I've been around, And I got up and, I had a couple good lines. Anthony, I said, you're a great broadcaster. You put broads in casts. and And then Judy Gold, I said, I loved you on the subway platform in Ghost. So it was doing okay. Yeah. But I was still nervous. I'm very nervous. Then Anthony tried to heckle me from the audience. Okay? I don't know what. Maybe he was on his 8th drink. I have no idea. And I kind of buried him, but it put me in the comedy club mode. Like, this is what I'm used to. You know, fucking fighting with people in the crowd. Not, you know, I don't go on stage and go, let's get them. But if it happens, then I'm prepared. So when Anthony did that, and Anthony and I are good friends, so you could feel that there was no hatred whatsoever. He said, I hate your hat. And I wish I would have said, why does it remind you of a black lady in Times Square? But, I mean, I said something else. But it put me in at ease, where I didn't even have to look at my notes anymore. I just started roasting from my memory, from writing the stuff, or looking at it for a couple of days. The whole day I was a mess.
Well, if you watch that roast and you watch you during it, and there was how many people, like 8 or something? Yeah. You see, you look like you're ready to get up through the whole thing, like you're ready. Like, am I on? Am I on? For like 3 hours you were doing it.
Well, no, I was, because I had to go to the bathroom.
You were concerned about that. You told me that earlier. You were concerned.
Oh, I get very concerned because I know at some point in my career it's going to fall apart. And, like, I've already drooled on stage. That's already happened. That happened recently. The whole audience saw it. It's like the drool fell in slow motion. You know, it's like, I was hitting on this girl once at Caroline's. We're sitting at the bar, and I had I was having dental work done, and I had all I know is I'm hitting on her, and one of my teeth fell out of my mouth on the bar. And, right, true story, it was like a temporary. I go, well, I'm not closing the deal with her.
It's literally like a nightmare, like an actual nightmare that people have.
Yes. Like, well, you never think your tooth is going to fall out when you're trying to close a deal. And, you know, I could see a little drool every now and then. I'm getting older, and I always have, a very wet mouth with a lot of, with the Nicorette gum. I played it off, but it was still drool. And I just know at some point I'm just going to fall apart and just piss myself and fall apart on stage. You know what I mean? Do you ever feel that?
Well, I'll say this. I mean, I know the show's called Unmasked, but you don't have to take it all the way off. You can keep a little bit for yourself.
Listen, I'm as honest as I could be. That's what people don't know this about Rich Voss. I might be, aggressive and gruff, but I'm in touch with my, you know what I mean? I let down my walls. I let people inside. That's the problem.
Luckily we're no longer doing gay jokes. That's what I'm saying. But you have to watch some of these things that you're saying. Protect yourself.
Well, no, I mean, look, what I'm saying is, through the years on radio where we've told so many true stories and just let our mask, take our mask, what is it? Let your mask down or put your, whatever.
I have no idea.
Take it off. That you feel comfortable, because that audience tonight at the roast were a lot of radio, besides comics, there were a lot of radio fans there, obviously because you saw their parents dropping them off out front. So you're kind of comfortable being real. And to me, comedy, the best comics, you look at Patrice, he was as real as you could be. You look at Stanhope, these to me are the best comics that are talking from here, from their heart and not their head. Don't get me wrong, the head comics are funny too, that are just doing bits, but you leave the show and you go, he was funny or she was funny. What'd they say? I don't know. But when you leave, a Norton show or a Patrice show or Bobby or stand-up, those people. You know what I mean? So I see that as good comedy to me. And
well, a lot of people leave those shows during the show. I've never really asked you about how you started or quite frankly, why you started.
In comedy?
Yeah, in comedy.
That's why?
I mean, was there something that something that clicked for you?
Here, growing up, see, and I figured this out later on in life. I used to come home from school, I guess in 4th grade, and I would listen to this comedy album every day. It was this guy, Von Meter. He did the impressions of the Kennedys. The album was called The First Family. He was amazing. He sounded just like Jack Kennedy and Bobby Kennedy. And I would listen every day. His career was done after they got assassinated. This guy was
not as funny.
No, he was
Yeah.
the top comic, the #1 album sold in comedy. And then, he went, like they say, from Park Avenue to Park Bench. He died in alcoholic. But anyhow, I used to listen to him coming home. And I realized later on, and then I used to watch Ed Sullivan, and I would love like Alan King and the comics. And a lot of it was because my parents were getting divorced when I was, in 4th grade. And this was a way that I could handle it through humor, because I was in 4th grade. When your mother takes you, your brother and your sister, and takes you to your grandparents' house on my father's side, and knocks on the door and says, "I don't want them, take them." It's kind of an abandonment issue.
You think?
So and then when you don't see your father for like 2 weeks and he's coming to see you and you're like all excited, you're going, "Oh, here's Daddy," and you see him walking towards, you're in the window, and then detectives jump out of the bushes because my mom was using us as fucking pawns to arrest my dad. So you're thinking, okay, who was wrong? Him for not paying child support or her for using us as pawns? So it was a fucking horrible childhood. And
But
comedy,
you had that Von Meter album.
I had the Von Meter album. That's
the saddest thing I've ever heard. I had no idea
what
of any of this.
Well, but here's the thing. So, comedy help with the pain that you're dealing with as a child. Look, back then, this was years ago. They didn't have self-help. They didn't have Dr. Phil. Parents just fucking got divorced and were very self-centered or did whatever they had to do. Kids were just fucking pawns. Like when I got divorced with my first wife, I did the exact opposite than my parents, and I raised my kids grew up to be good kids, just from the attention and affection. So, the divorce. Then, as you get older, you're going, well, I'm not getting this attention at home, so you're doing everything for negative attention. You see what I'm saying? You're negative. You're doing whatever, breaking windows at the school, stealing, and then you progress into drugs, and I'm going, I've had all kinds of businesses that did really well, but I fucked them up because I, did coke. And I wasn't even smoking it then. That was a whole nother level. And then I said, my whole life I love comedy. So I said, I have to do this. So there was an open mic. They used to have it at Catch a Rising Star where you would take a number and stand outside, and if they pick, you go on stage. And I saw this comic, Lenny Schultz. Remember Lenny?
Yeah, more chickens or whatever.
More pigs.
More pigs, yeah.
And he was a prop comic, and I thought he was the funniest man alive. So I said, oh, that's easy. So I went to Toys R Us and bought a bunch of shit. I did. I bought a bunch of shit at Toys R Us. I go, well, if he could do it, I could do it. And I remember this one bit, these doll arms. I took this doll, and the doll arms were about, like a foot long.
Yeah.
And I cut them off, and I would put my arms in my shirt, and I would hold the arms, and I'd walk out with like little hands sticking out, and I go, let's have a big hand for the last act, right? It was so fucking hacky, and I had all these props, right? But it was horrible. I did a racial thing, and I made a girl from my town cry, and it was really, it was horrible. And I don't know if I could say this because it might come back to haunt me. I took an old sweat sock and said it was a black person's Christmas stocking. And I pulled out stuff that were very, well, what I'm saying is, but this is way back. This is before,
Before what?
Huh?
Before what? You couldn't be a racist?
This is so. But I didn't know it was racist because I grew.
Rich, I'm worried this is not going to air.
Cut that part out. No. I grew up in an all-black neighborhood. I didn't think it was racist. I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
I grew up in Plainfield in a black neighborhood. I was the white guy in my neighborhood.
All right, so you're saying because you relate so much, but did you ever see a black person take a black sock? Look, this is our stocking. Let me pull out a lot of broken stereotypes out of this.
Look, comedy is stereotypes. And back then, there's a lot of stereotypes in comedy.
I just want to say to the young people, no, it's not.
Yes.
I know you're listening right now.
Well, it was.
Yeah, okay.
It was a lot of stereotypes. Look, I mean, whatever. I didn't have a racist bone in my body. I just tried to be funny throughout my whole life. In school, in 4th grade, I was the second funniest guy. Dennis was the first, but he ended up in jail.
You know why I feel so bad? I feel so bad I didn't get Dennis for this. That's what
He
really
was
been
so
killing.
funny. I was in an all-black gang in 4th grade.
Yeah.
But then...
What were you guys called?
I don't know. MM something or MS.
13? Is that what you're going with this?
No, it was a bunch of people with multiple sclerosis. So I was in a black gang in school, in Barlow School, and Sonny was the leader. And I remember he took one of my Hot Wheels.
Yeah.
And I told the teacher, and I ratted on Sonny. The whole gang was chasing me home from school. The whole gang, you saw this little white kid running with his stupid saddle shoes. My mother bought me saddle shoes. I was tormented. And some lady stopped them from beating me up. And some lady, and she was probably like 21, but I'm going some old lady. But that, I was in black gangs in my neighborhood throughout.
Let me just say, why do I feel like the cop in Usual Suspects right now? What?
Well, I don't know what I'm getting at.
No, you're nailing it. What you're saying, you had a lot of stuff going on when you were a kid.
Yes.
And you were looking to express yourself. God,
I could have just said that.
Yeah.
See, that's why you have a radio show and I'm doing Bobby's podcast later.
Make sure you bring up the trash can with you. That's how he judges people. Hey, so when you started stand-up, and this is in the 80s, I guess, early...
Yeah, well,
80s.
I've been doing it, I think, I've been sober 32 years, so I was doing it like 34 years I've been doing it.
Yeah.
30,
so you were
subtract.
only doing that 2 years when you were the crazy kid? Because you were like a legend before you got sober.
Well, I had some stories, yeah. I mean, with Freebase and just comics and us partying and go. I remember, it's so weird. I was an arrogant douchebag even then. I remember this. Well, I'm not really arrogant. I'm kind of like, I'm what do you call it? I'm positive. I remember saying to a club booker, we're all getting high and doing. I go, I'm going to be famous someday. I said, and I worked for that club booker, and he had me do a show, and he was kicked out of his house. So he was staying in a hotel, and he had all his stuff in the hotel. And I do the show for him, and he says, I don't have your money. I go, look, you got to give me something. And I took his TV, and I remember coming home, my first wife said, what are you working for, a microwave next week? But back then, we were partying and getting high, and, I didn't get real or serious until I got out of rehab. I mean, I remember in rehab, they said you can't do comedy for a year. And the day I got out of rehab, I did comedy that night because I knew I surrendered to drugs. I knew I didn't want to get high as much as I wanted to stay clean. So I did comedy, and it got better and better and through the years. But you don't really find your voice till you're like 10, 15, whatever years in. You know what I mean? At one point in my career, I'm running around stage thinking I'm fucking Robin Williams. Then one point, I'm doing deadpan like Stephen Wright, you know. I remember walking on stage, if you're riding in a cab and the driver goes in reverse, does he owe you money? You know, just stupid one-liners, you know. Does an Eskimo put his money in snowbanks? What a fucking hack. I stink. That's what do red ants get mad when their daughters go out with black ants? You know, I kind of brought the racial stuff back.
Good.
I couldn't let go of the racial stuff. But it was just dumb stuff. And then you're doing clubs on the road, whatever. I started emceeing on the road. And then work your way up, and then you start writing. And I don't know when it is when you get real, when you start really writing about yourself. I remember working your club in Tampa, and I don't know what I all week I was having a tough time. I don't know what it was, and I go, oh man, thank God he's not here. You weren't there to see it, but it was tough.
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah.
I got called on my vacation. How do you know this guy? But I had never asked you, what was your bottom? What made you decide? Because you were kind of a happy guy, even though you're on drugs, right? I mean, you seem like it.
I guess, your body, when you go from partying, drinking, getting high, snorting coke, once I started smoking freebase and crack, it's a whole nother level. I might not have hit my bottom, or maybe years later, if I just stayed lightly snorting it or smoking pot. But once I started smoking freebase, after 2 or 3 years, I go, either I'm going to die or end up in jail or a mental institution. I was already in fucking nut houses for anxiety. When I was 21, I had the anxiety. No one knew. My friends go, I was all fucked up, and they go, well, you need a vacation. They drove me to Florida, and we drove all the way to Florida, and we got there. I go, I got to go home. So the next day we drove back because I was a fucking mess, and I checked myself in the hospital. Now, back then, they didn't really know what anxiety was, right. So they're giving you like Thorazine and Haldol, and I'm doing like this fucking like a shuffle around me and some girl I met. We just walked like fucking zombies. I remember my friend came to visit me, and I said, I can't see you. We're going for a walk today. And it was anxiety. It was just all the shit in my life coming, and I was 21. I went to therapy. It passed. It came back when I was 40 real bad. I found a therapist. So the bottom was the freebase. I was doing shit that you just don't do. I owed money everywhere. This one guy, I owed him money. He lit my mother's car on fire. They torched my mother's car, because I owed drug dealers money. And, my mom's car, I said to him, I go, now we're getting a free car from insurance, and you're definitely not getting your money. But, I remember driving in New York in one of my mom's cars, and someone hit the car. And I said, just give me $100 and drive away. And I went and bought, 10 vials of crack. So everybody around me was being affected, sure. and you really don't see it because you're in such denial. And it's such a self-centered disease, alcoholism and drug addiction. It's not to the point where I said, I can't live this way anymore. And I put myself in rehab. And I said, and I did everything in my life to do the whole 5-day detox and the whole 28 days in rehab because I never finished anything in my life before that. I quit school. I'd build a model plane and I remember building a plane. I couldn't get one part in and I smashed it. My mother goes, just like your father. And, but I didn't leave her.
She was trying.
Yeah. So you see what I mean? But
I mean, it doesn't normally go off like a switch for that. For most people, particularly young people who have a crack addiction, it's a very rare thing to come off it the way you did.
Well, it took 3 years, though, of doing it. So it wasn't like I did it. I remember one night I probably smoked an eighth of coke, and I was I go, I can't do it. And I remember going to Fair Oaks Hospital, and because it was just on the news. This is the rehab, and I sat in the waiting room, panicking, and I got to get into rehab. And by the time they saw me, one, I didn't have insurance. I was already came down. I said, "Fuck it, I'm leaving." So the bottom really was one night I was going into New York. Just a true story. It was like 7 o'clock. My friend said, "Can you go cop?" So I would get their money. I would drive in. I took my friend's car. I tried to sell his car, but I didn't have the bill to sell. I got the radio out. So that was my first trip into New York. Then I got home, 9 o'clock. I go back in with my other friends, and we get into a major car accident. No one gets hurt. We run out, take another car in, and then we cop for our second time. Then my friend Frankie Bastille is coming into town, and I go in for the third time, like at maybe 1 or 2 a.m., and we're smoking till sunup. I'm driving home, and I get this pain in my stomach. I pull into a Holiday Inn, I walk in, I fall on the floor. I thought I was dying, and I had a kidney stone, but so they rushed me to the hospital. They give me, I guess, morphine or whatever, and I wake up, I leave the hospital, and I go back to New York, and then a week later said, I have to go to rehab. Because that night, I should have died 2 or 3 times. And I said, look, I'm going to fucking rehab. And I went to this place in Marlborough, New Jersey called New Hope Foundation, and those counselors basically saved my life. They saved my life, because without them, I don't know what I would have done. I don't know if I could have went into a meeting and just done it on my own without that.
Now, do you, go ahead and play. That's really, I mean, it is, that is the bottom, I think, where you're at there. But were you able to be friends with Frankie after that, or did you have to, but I'm very serious about that, because I knew Frankie very well, and he was an incredible amount of fun.
Yes.
And also was on the same kind of...
No, I kind of, pulled away from him and all my friends that were getting high.
Yeah.
And I remember, what am I, 6?
It's about the 8th time you said member tonight.
I know,
so, yeah.
I know. I'm thinking what used to go in my mouth when I was getting high.
It's hilarious.
I remember seeing him and doing in New York one night and just hanging out with him one day. And it was just a total nightmare day.
Yeah.
I was sober. I had a girlfriend, which is another story. And I remember he left his stuff in my car. Then we went separate ways. And then I come back and the car window's broken and his stuff is stolen, which he did himself. And it was just a nightmare. So I'm done with him. And then one time I was working down in Florida, somewhere, and he got himself on the bill to middle for me. And he was still in the... it was weird. When he died, Frankie was a heroin addict. And he reminded me of Keith Richards. If Keith Richards was a comic or Tom Waits was a comic, that would be Bastille.
Yeah.
And I remember when his dad died, and he died 2 or 3 days after it. So they cremated him and put his ashes in a urn and put the urn in his father's coffin to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So he was buried in his, now he's fucking haunting his father in the afterlife. A lot of these stories don't mean anything to you, but there's people out there listening going, yeah,
Sure.
we know him.
And just for them, I'll let them know that it's urn, not urn.
Oh.
Yeah, because I don't want any young junkies going, and you still?
I have trouble with E's.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that how it's spelled with an
No,
E?
no. There's no E in there.
Is it spelled with a U? U-R-N?
U-R-N, it's a different urn.
Yeah, but U-R-N would sound like a yearn, more like an urn. Urn would be E-A-R-N.
Well, yeah, if this was a spelling bee, Rich.
Okay.
And by the way, in the middle of just this heart-crushing story, It's still hilarious. Now, the special you shot is actually at an NA meeting, right?
I shot an hour special at an NA convention.
Now, you know what the A stands for, right?
Well, okay.
Just sweeping camera shots.
No.
No!
Okay. Can I tell you something really? Oh, fuck. Oh, look who comes prepared. It's URN.
Yeah.
So, one, we're not going to show the audience.
No.
Two, no one's ever shot a special at a convention. You know, everything's been done everywhere.
Yeah.
And I could do material that I really wouldn't do in a club. And it was so great. I'm doing it in a 12-step convention. It's the best audience on the planet. One, they're not drunk. There's no waitress or waiter bringing drinks, and there's no one all fucked up heckle. They're the best audience if you've ever worked a convention. So I'm on stage, my backdrop is cool. It looks like a fucking. It looks like a 12-step meeting. I had the coffee pot, the signs, the donuts, and the chairs set up with books. It really looks fucking cool. So I'm on stage for a few minutes, and they said, sit down, do it sitting down. Bonnie looked at it and thought I was in a fucking wheelchair. So she goes, why didn't you stand? I go, they told me to sit. So there was a lady to the left of me, this black lady, probably the best audience member ever. You know what I mean? When they're just so great, laughing and agreeing. And I go, you are the best person on the planet. And then there was a lady right in the front row, right in the front, that wouldn't smile. She was probably didn't smile no matter what. And I did a couple of jokes. I go, ma'am, this is all, and she's not smiling. Then I did another joke, killed, nothing from. I go, look, lady, this is it. This is my last shot. I cannot have you sitting up front bringing me the fuck down like this. So I sent her to the back of the room, and I put the black lady in the front row. I did. I moved her, and I moved this one over, and then it was perfect.
Were you worried that the woman might have only been 5 day clean, going through some shit?
No, it was about me. I don't give a fuck. This was my special. It wasn't her special.
Good. Now I know that you get the program.
Yes,
That's fantastic.
I told him, look, this is a comedy show. This isn't a fucking meeting. I said, look, if anybody has a problem with this shit, call your fucking sponsor, all right? If you're gonna go out and get high, you were gonna do that anyhow. There's nothing I could say that's gonna make you fucking drink or get high. That's on you. When I tell people, I go, look, if you want help, all you have to do is call me. That's all you have to do.
Yeah, I could tell by what you just said there.
Just smile and laugh when you call.
Just be good. So doing that, was that like a great kind of... I mean, you're talking about finding that place that's real, and here you are really exposing yourself in that special.
It was so fucking much fun, and it was great, like I said, because there's nothing you could say to a room full of recovering addicts that they haven't heard or done. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So when I'm up there telling stories, how, I used to go to garage sales in my town and buy old sets of golf clubs, for like $5, just like old beat up golf clubs. And I would go to drug dealers. I go, give me $1,000 on credit, and I'll leave you my golf clubs as collateral, right? And then, there's like 7 drug dealers in my hometown that all have garage sale golf clubs.
It's oddly genius. That's the weird thing about it.
I did it all the time. Because people always sold old golf, and they're going, oh, that scam, listen to this one. You know what I mean? So when you're connecting, the best thing in comedy is when the audience is when your introduction is just your name, because they're coming to see you. After the last comic, we were doing theaters and selling out, and people were coming. They knew who I was. I just didn't hold on to that audience because, on NBC, you can't talk about hot loads landing on a back. So when you're on stage and these people are going, whoa, that's not the guy we saw on last comic. I go, you know what I mean? Do a little research.
So
know?
you felt like they were there to see clean comedy.
Well, they were there to. They were a reality audience, a reality show audience. You know, when we did Tough Crowd, that was a comedy audience. If that show would have lasted 2 more years, you know what I mean? If people, you know, could just understand that stuttering, yammering fuck Colin, and that show would have lasted a couple more years, things would have went great. You
Well,
know?
I mean, it's weird now if you turn on MSNBC or Fox or CNN, it looks like Tough Crowd. It's just people lighting each other. It's just not funny the way, but everything else is done the same way.
Well, yeah, it's broken into the 4 panels or whatever, and they're all just yelling. But Tough Crowd was like, it goes right back to the roast. These were the people that did Tough Crowd, and this was our connection when we were on Tough Crowd.
Right.
You know, Norton or Keith, but nobody was as fast as Geraldo. I mean, just a brilliant, funny comic. You know, on every roast on Comedy Central, I always put him first because they knew how good he was. So that's what Tough Crowd was. Just, it wasn't like doing TV. It was great. It was in New York. You'd leave home, you know, hey, I'm going to go do Tough Crowd, be on TV, you know, food, craft service, and then just hang in New York and do a spot. It was the best show.
But there was also some hurt feelings on that show too, right? People would get stung a little bit.
Well, yeah, I think some people, like, I'll tell you the truth. I was on with Patrice, and Dad Fan was on, and that's when he won Last Comic. And me and Patrice mainly Patrice, beat him down really bad. And I'm not just saying this to make me look like a good person, because I'm not.
No one's going to think that.
I remember, I wrote on Facebook and I apologized. I said, listen, we were assholes. You know, this was years ago, and I'm sorry. I wish I never did this, you know, and I hope you accept my apology, you fucking hack. I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
But did you hear back from him, or?
Yeah, he wrote back. Yeah, because you do things, you know, in life, and then you look back. You know, the other day I was in it's all program in your head, doing a 10-step. I was in this supermarket the other day, and I'm waiting online to get lottery tickets, and this guy is complaining about 20 cents on it, and I said, look, I'll give you the 20 cents, just fucking wrap it up. And I felt bad, and I saw him in the parking lot, and I apologized. I go, that was rude of me. He goes, yeah, yes, it was. And I'm going, hey, fuck, I'm apologizing. Jesus Christ. Fuck you. I hope you lose your 20 cents, you jerk off. Sorry. Fucking.
It's a beautiful story, Rich.
Well, I'm just saying, you realize in life when you do. Look, and these are all cliches, but you don't always know when you're doing the right thing, but you definitely know when you're doing the wrong thing. And if you apologize, then that's all you could do, you know?
Yeah.
I how many times do I got to say sorry to Bonnie just for life, you know?
Probably not
Just
enough,
for-
Rich.
I'm surprised she doesn't put a fucking altar at the end of the bed, because she gives me a lecture every night on what a bad human being I am. Every night I get a fucking lecture.
Right.
She yells at me. Like we were eating cherries the other night. Right? We're eating cherries. And I don't like the soft ones. I like them a little harder. You know what I mean? So, yeah, thank you. So I pick them up. I pick one up, and and I put it back in the thing. She goes, "What the fuck you doing? You won't eat it, but you'll give it to your kid or your wife?" Same with the other day. I opened up like milk or something. I opened up something. Mustard. It was mustard. And I go, because I always listen to hear the crack, you know. Or when I buy potato chips. When I buy potato chips, I squeeze both ends of the bag, because if you hear like a that means, you know, somebody shot it with something, or, you know, can't, like, so I squeeze, what?
I just want to just take a second.
What?
Shouldn't the crack paranoia have left you by now?
No. Listen, you squeeze your Snickers bar, because you don't know if there's some disgruntled Snickers employee that wasn't fucking, you know, promoted to Babe Ruth, and he wants to take it out on the Snickers community. So,
Baby Ruth would be the
It's a
better
step
job.
up. It's a whole nother level. People know Babe Ruth. They don't know there was no Snicker home run fucking king. So what I'm fucking saying is
Just be careful the way you say Snickers.
okay.
Really trying to stay on the air. So you still have the same kind of obsessions.
Oh yeah. So the mustard the other day, I go, this seems like it was opened, and I go, and I put it back in the refrigerator. She goes, oh, you believe you could die from it, but you'll still put it back in the refrigerator. So your wife and child. I go, well, you guys don't think you're gonna die from it. I do. You see what I'm saying?
I'm telling you right now, I'm only trying to figure Bonnie out. What is she doing?
I know, I'm not good. I try, look, I'm on Amazon. I just bought whatever. I just try to look out for my family. I just bought 40s, yes, I do, 40s little sonic things that you plug in that for noise to get rid of the flies and the mice. You know,
you're looking out for your family.
I put together 5 survival packs for my family.
Yeah.
I have 2 in the car. I got survival packs.
What's in the survival pack?
Everything you can imagine to live. Oh, you name it, I got it.
Yeah.
Machetes, little fishing poles. I got stuff you could put in water to sterilize it. I got fucking
just so you know,
everything.
you live in North Jersey.
Listen,
I mean, if you lived in Montana, this might be an idea.
listen, you don't know when you're driving home from a fucking gig and whatever, earthquake, something, I don't know, and you got to live on the side of the road for a couple, whatever. I got 2 in my car and 3 at home.
Are you thinking that your life is going to turn into an action film out of nowhere?
No, it all started when I started watching Naked and Afraid. That's when it started.
Yeah. By the way, we all have seen it. None of us have run out and did this. So it's a TV show. These people signed up for this.
Yeah, but listen, look, you never know. You just got to be prepared. You know, on Naked and Afraid, they're allowed to bring one thing from home.
Yeah.
Why don't they bring an RV? Oh, he threw in one of his bits, folks.
No.
He slipped it in like a plug. Oh, God, do I stink. As long as this is better than Tom Papa's. What? I'm only kidding. He's here tonight downstairs.
Can I tell you something, Reg?
What?
You don't have a worry in the world.
Okay. No. Hey,
I'm kidding. He's downstairs.
I wrote please buy my book. Fuck off. Buy your book. I didn't even read my wife's book. What the fuck am I going to buy your book? Fucking.
Wait a minute. I want to see this. You're against selling things?
No. No, I forgot to bring merch tonight. Bonnie said you can't bring your... I got new shirts that say Voss Legend, and... No, this is... That fucking... No, that my wife will leave me if I do that again. I have an ultimatum. Fucking Yearn is with a U? It's so...
Earn. Yearn doesn't. You saying yearn for no reason. Yearn has a Y. You know, like if you meant to say yearn, you were saying it correctly. This is an earn.
But no one ever calls it a yearn.
Not in the history.
Not even...
Not in recorded history.
Okay.
That
All right,
mistake has never played.
You live and learn. See, that a lot of people
Did you
come
just
on
say
this...
live and yearn?
Live and earn. It's like fucking, he's so fucking quick. I'm telling you, man. Oh, unbelievable. Just don't walk into Stern's office.
Did you say Yearn's office? You're trapped in this. Chris, Chris is my producer, and he's letting me know there's been an earthquake. And if anybody has a survival pack, now is the time to put it on.
Fuck, I took the train in.
Would that be the most ironic thing?
My car's at the train station. I mean, you got to see the shit. Bobby thinks his survival stuff is better than mine, but I don't know. Let me tell you.
Bobby's into the same stuff?
Yeah, and it's going to be tough for him to survive on nuts. Okay. All right.
By the way, going back to your roast, he is so funny in this roast and so ridiculously physically funny. The shit that he's oddly doing with a water bottle, some of the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life.
Well, you know what it reminded me of? Because, like, you know, I talked about this with Bonnie the other day, and we wanted, it's like the old school roast. And she goes, but I wanted to be hip. I go, it was. But Bobby would, like, after somebody fucked with him, he would stand up, and he was like a Milton Berle kind of.
Right.
Right? You know what I mean? He
Yeah.
was just, he was so animated and so funny when somebody trashed him. He goes, what did I do to you?
Yeah.
And it's just everybody's part came out perfectly. It just, I can't, we're going to do some more of these roasts. We're going to do, like, you know, we want to make it a series. And the next one, these people are going to have to bring a fucking serious game to compare with that roast, you know.
Well, you know, you did bring up something funny about Bobby Kelly. Is like, he would have been funny no matter what decade it was. I never even thought about that until you brought it up. I'm like, he could have existed in the 30s, the 60s. It didn't matter, you know, because he's got... But that, Colin in that roast, and, like, it might be expected, but Jim Norton in that roast, unfucking believable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And I've known him for 18 years. And I'm laughing at him like I've never seen him before. It's stunning how funny that thing is.
And that's why we used Norton to open it, because we knew he's going to...
Yeah.
One, Norton is always prepared. Like, Norton is so prepared, like, say...
Survival pack-wise, you mean?
No, well, like, say a radio host might be on his way out. He's sitting right there, ready to take the chair. That's how fucking good he is. That fucking sidekick radio hack, that fucking horrible, chinless cocksucker did not wait for that fucking seat to get fucking cold before he threw his fucking wormy little bird fucking self in it with the other sidekick hack. Okay? But he's prepared.
By the way, take all this to Reddit. I'm going to deny it. None of this shit will make it on the air. But
no, I think he's great. I think he's great. You know what Norton's good for? He's great to. Okay, let's go to Norton. You know what I mean? Yeah, Norton. What do you think? You know what I'm saying? He's quick. All right, but nobody really. Come on. Anyhow. All right. Fucking chinless cocksucker. I don't like him. All right.
I just want to say this. I saw someone laughing hysterically.
What?
Colin Quinn, everybody. We got a mic. Now, Colin was in this roast and came on way late in the roast, where you're at that point where, like, can this keep going like this? You know what I mean? Can the laughter... And he just stepped up and killed. Colin Quinn, everybody. Here he is.
Where do you want me to stand? What's your new one-man show? Messenger? Fucking messenger bag? What the fuck?
You know what?
Sorry.
Yeah. What's yours, Scarface's father?
Now, I don't want to bring this up for
Here,
the roast.
you want to sit down? My ticker
all right.
is better. What?
Then
I
why
said
do you
ticker.
why do you lay awake all night staring at the ceiling, wondering if that's true? We know how much you
I
are.
know.
But in this, honestly, what Colin has done, like the last several years of just reinventing his career and doing these specials, it's unbelievably funny and brilliant, and no one's done this kind of thing before, and that's what he gets attacked for in the roast.
Yeah.
We're like, what are you making, an educational
Yeah.
Who said that?
DeRosa.
DeRosa. And I'm like, this is his weakness? The brilliant specials?
DeRosa was very funny in the roast, but I didn't like his giant fucking acting / pandering to the crowd, and they all fell for it, professional comedians and all. And he's like, just jumping around the fucking stage.
Yeah, I know.
I delivered my shit monotonously, and that's how you can tell it's funny.
But do you remember? Do you remember when Florentine was on Killing and you were
Yes.
sitting next to me? You go, "What the fuck am I gonna do?"
Oh,
You remember how
he
fucking
killed.
But you went up. You're so fucking good at everything that you had no problem following them. You really are.
Yeah.
No, listen.
You know what it is? I'm prepared, but in a different way from Jim. I know what you were saying.
I have a thing. Colin drew a picture of a car driving to a shitty one-nighter in Jersey, and it was me in the car. And he drew, and I saved it in case he, ever becomes, good again or famous. And he signed it. It's, you know what it's fucking worth?
Wow.
No, that one.
Did you have any
bombed.
moments like this before I got here?
No. No, it's been killing.
His line goes,
It's been killing.
Look, it's been a struggle, Colin. I'm not going to lie to you. There was such sadness in this.
Yeah.
That a few people just started crying.
Yeah.
What do you mean? I'm just trying to be real. What do you want? Fucking some dog and pony show? I'm
Yes,
fucking,
yes.
Oh, listen, everybody.
He goes, yes.
Come to
Dog and-
Papa and no.
First of all,
What?
you're always doing kind of half of a dog and pony show, the pony part, anyway.
Really? Oh, shit!
Good to see you, my friend. Holy shit.
How you been?
Tom Papa walks in, gives boss the finger and leaves.
Tom looks like the guy who tried to suffocate Meyer Lansky in Cuba.
Oh, who's next? Norton's gonna slide under the door? Is Opie anywhere picking his nose? What the fuck? Wait.
That's why he's the king.
Yeah.
He is.
Oh, Tom's got to know that I'm serious.
Yeah.
No, that I'm
He had
only
a little
kidding.
bit- yeah, he
Oh,
definitely
fuck.
knows that you're serious.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, it's always important, like you say, every day you want to make at least one enemy. That's what you want to do. Well, I want to say this because we got to wrap this up. We're at the point, but I've done a lot of these, Rich Voss, and no one else has ever needed help. So, Colin Quinn, Tom Papa, and Rich Voss, everybody. That was amazing.
Thank you. VossRoast.com.
VossRoast.com.
Why are you yelling at like
Why would an audience member yell Boss Roast?
That's where you get the roast.
But plug it properly because
I mean, what a strange
I wasn't
audience
even laughing
member.
at you. I was laughing at the awkward pause between VossRoasted.com.
because he didn't make sense.
Go to VossRoast.com to get the Rich Voss roast. You can rent or purchase it there at VossRoast.com.
Why rent it when you can purchase?
I know.
I never get that.
You just keep renting it.
I mean, it passes the savings on to you.
When I go to City Bike, I go, how much? Seriously, for the whole fucking month. And I'm not even going to paint it. Enjoy next week, everybody. And remember, on Monday, July 9th, the Bennington Show is moving to Faction Talk, channel 103. Will be on every day from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. in the East. So right now, we come on noon at the East, but forget about that. That's crazy. 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. in the East. And that is it for us. But enjoy the vacation next week. And if you don't have a vacation, bad job you have. You should be off this week. If not, we'll see you again in 1974.
Ladies and gentlemen, the evening is over. We hope you all enjoyed yourselves, and we'll see you all again in 1974. Good evening!